Well, for one, happy ex Valentine's Day, or not ex, belated.
It's still,
Hello.
oh yeah, that is it. Ex-Valentine. Someone celebrating exes or
My bad. It was also Patrick's birthday yesterday, which is pretty cool.
oh awesome. Happy birthday, Patrick.
I know.
Oh, thank
And
you.
Arizona's, I think, 113th birthday as
Oh really? Is it today or
a
yesterday?
state. No, on Valentine's Day.
Oh, Valentine's Day.
That's
Okay.
cool.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Are
No
you from
wonder there is so much love when I come to Arizona.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
Sue just came
How's
down.
everyone doing? What's happening, guys? So we are changing the format just a little bit and actually adding more cool things to this power hour. We are still calling it power hour, but we are gonna convert this format into more like a podcast format whenever we start doing more and more guests. Right now we have our one and only Ingrid Hernandez from Arizona. If you guys don't know Ingrid, already you need to know her. She is the go-to person for anything sub two related stuff in Arizona for sure. And she has I don't know, 10 years in real estate,
I've
Ingrid,
had my real
now?
estate license since 2013, but
Oh, yeah,
I
that very
began real estate investing in 2021. Yeah. I joined sub two
perfect.
January 2021, and then I got my first investment or my first deal under contract in September of 2021.
That's when I joined.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was the
So,
what was the
go ahead.
investment? Was it a sub two or flip?
It was a virtual flip in Las Vegas, actually. And all things worked out and we profited around $54,000. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's what happens in real estate. Like every time you, people, when they start doing it, when I first started, I had a job that was paying little under 100 grand,
Uh-huh.
maybe like 96 grand or something. That was my salary at the time. And the first deal I did, I bought a house for 125,000 that was worth over 200,000. And I ended up keeping it because that was the mindset I had. Like I wanted to keep more rentals. And the day I sold it, I ended up netting 90 grand from that one house. And I was like, oh my God, like why is everyone not doing this already? So that's what real estate does to you. So you just need to be with the right people and follow the right advice because there is a lot of wrong and bad advice out there. But gladly, we are all in the right community. That is probably the most active community I ever seen. And believe me, I've been part of all the communities out there. I used to join a community per year
Mm.
just to stay on top of my networking goals and all these things. But after sub two, I mean, all the people from other communities are joining sub two, so I don't have to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
So fun fact about Ingryd is one of the OGs in the sub two community. For those who don't know Ingryd, and not only is she the OG, she's also one of very close friends with Pace. So she's a very, very important connection to have for many reasons. Uh, Her experience, her background, and hanging out with the right people is what gets you to the places you want, basically, in real estate. So, let me know when you want to start, Jada. I'm just trying to
Yeah, you're good.
make introduction for now, and let's maybe give it another minute. We have a little over 20 people.
Look at you, Ingrid. You bring a following.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but thank you. I appreciate it. Uh-huh.
No, I know a ton of people here that were actually really excited to have you on. Question. So was it, so you said that you did a virtual flip for your first investment. Were you partnering with other people or was this like your, just yours, your deal?
Well, when I got started, I got started partnering with my cousin David Diaz, who speaking of Chai's feedback about people joining. So we were literally in a Zoom. It was like March or April of 2021. And we were one of those Zooms that Pace would have. And then I was in the chats and I saw our cousin David and I was like, is that you? And come to find out he had joined completely independent of us, right? He wanted to get into real estate. So I found out that he had been paying for cold callers and had like a very skeleton process set up and but was paying for these callers and not actually following up or calling on the leads.
Oh my
So
gosh.
when we first got started, I was like, hey, as I get better at learning this thing that we're doing, if you want, I can start calling on them. And of course, he's family. So right away, we got like an LLC together. And so our goal was to flip houses, own properties, do all the real estate investing stuff. So when I got that first deal, I was calling on these leads that by then he and I were paying half and half, right? Because I wanted to help him with the costs and really be like 50-50 partners. And I wasn't calling consistent at all because I had a day job and then came up with all the excuses of why not calling these leads. And then I got really serious. I was like, okay, I'm wasting my family's time. I'm wasting my time by being inconsistent like this. And so once I really got in the right headspace, I was like, every day I'm going to start calling from 4 to 7, because I'm done with work by 4. So I'm going to call 4 to 7, or it was like 5 to 7, one of those times. And then from literally the day I decided I'm going to be consistent about this, I believe it was day 4, I got this under contract. The 4th day of being
Oh
consistent.
my God. And this
Yeah.
is you calling yourself?
Well, this is
Like you
after
got the seller.
the cold callers called, and then we had a list of leads.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
And so
Nice.
then I was following up with them to say, hey, you spoke with one of our people, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of those big surprises too, because I remember, again, I had been trying to incorporate the skills that you learn in sub 2, and part of it was the sales skills, right? Like I actually have a very dark story that we could talk about on how building my skills on the phone has actually helped me in other ways more than real estate. We can go there, but having those awkward silences, right? Just shut up and let them talk. Like, don't say
Yeah.
anything. Learning all those little tools and tips through the sales stuff that you learn. I think Pace had like a 5. He talked about the Sandler method. Like it was like a 5-episode one. So it's in Kajabi if you guys are in sub 2. Anyways, I was practicing what I was learning through that process. And we were on the call and I remember telling him like, okay, like what are you looking for and whatever. I remember one of the skills that you learned was like when they tell you a number, it doesn't matter what the number is, always pretend that it hurts, right? So he was like, well, I really want like 130. And I was like, right, like that was the sound I made. He's like, but
Yeah.
I could be okay with 120. And then I was like, and the back of my head, I'm like, hell yeah, like that's a great number. This is at the time I didn't know what of another story around that, but when he gave me that number, I was like, you have to pause and kind of let it in. You can't like automatically say yes because that sounds like it's too good to be true. So you have to give that hesitation. And so, yeah, I contracted it for 120, I believe. My memory might not be great anymore because this was now, like 3 and
So
a
that
half.
sound got you 10 grand?
No,
Sound
so,
got you 10 grand?
oh yeah, the sound got me 10 grand, 10 grand less. And
That is
then,
so cool.
the funny thing though, and Google still has this problem when I look at the address, I thought I was getting like a triple digit flip sort of thing because the Google was showing me the house behind their house. So what I thought was the house was not actually the house. So that was the first funny part because I didn't know, but it was still a deal. Once I figured out that I was looking at the wrong house. But anyway, but once I looked at the house, I was like, okay, there's still room here. And speaking of being in sub two and having great connections, I called on the local agent there who was in sub two, Kai, and he went and walked it for me and helped me get all things like signed with it and like confirmed to me like what it looked like. So I paid Kai for his time to do all that. So it was really nice to just like plug into the sub two network, send somebody there. And then for the record, I had improved one of our houses out in City of Maricopa when we left, but I had never flipped a house, like formally flipped a house. This was my very first flip. So not only was it my first, but it was also my virtual. But once I confirmed
my
that the property was not a total, POS, that I knew that I had the ability to team up. And so what I did was I started vetting agents who had experience working with investors. And then I went one step further, asking them if they had subs, like if they had people who could just go do and the way that I presented it, I was like, I only need 2 or 3 things. Like I need a really good cleaner. I need somebody to finish up the flooring because there was some flooring problems and replace the roof. That's it. That's all I need. And all the agents I talked to were kind of like indecisive of whether or not they had a resource. But the one guy we talked to, Hector, he was like, oh yeah, I'm Latino. Like most of these people are like their family members or close to their family members that he could just go send somebody, no big deal. And at the time, I mean, it was 2021, things were still reasonably priced. I only spent $15,000 fixing that property up, and that included the roof. So once we did that, yeah, we were able to put it on the market. It fell out of contract, and then we put it back on the market and actually made $10,000 more. So it worked out for for us, and then we walked away with $54,000. I never stepped foot in it.
So-
My husband and my cousin did right after we contracted because we gave the guy a month post possession.
So the moral of the story is this guy, Kai or Chai, I mean, potato, they're all good people. So, but anyways, jokes aside, this is amazing, amazing journey, or rather, amazing first flip experience, rather, more than anything else. So for your first flip, just assume that everything's gonna go wrong from start to end. You are standing there basically. I mean, it's like somebody's throwing balls at you and you're juggling and the balls never stop coming and you have to keep adding those to your juggling routine and you just have to wing it the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, not only did Ingrid wing it, she walked away with 54 grand. That's more than winging it, I would say. But again, did your previous experience in real estate help you doing this? I mean, what was the success formula at that moment? Like, I know now you know a lot more and you're maybe 5-10 more years experience. But at the time,
I think that a person just getting started would have just said, let me take my 10 grand and go, right? They would have just wholesaled it. And that is something that I contemplated. But I think having seen enough properties at that point, I knew that this was super cosmetic and that there was no way there wasn't more money to be made. I think if I had struggled finding the right agent and if I had struggled finding the resources we were looking for, then I would have wholesaled it. But those things came so easy that I was like, well, damn, I know you just said, assume everything's going to go wrong. But for me, everything was going right. So,
Yeah.
it just made sense to take it to the finish line. But that was part of
And
my.
this was
Mhm.
2021, you said, right?
Yes, September 2021, like you could
Okay.
you could do no wrong. So like it was,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Now it's
You
not.
could put a really, yeah. And I mean, that's the exact reason why we wanted you, of all people, to be our first guest, is because you have gone through those cycles.
Mhm.
And today, the complete, I mean, the way flipping strategy looks versus what it looked in 2021 and what it looked like in 2025, I'm sorry, 2015 is completely different. Okay.
Mm.
So, I mean, while we were chatting, we kind of started talking about your first flip, but I want to deep dive into your background before we get into flipping and underwriting. So if you don't mind, I mean, what is your prior experience in general in life, in corporate or real estate for that matter? If you
Yeah.
can go over that so people can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I'm an immigrant to this country. My accent is not as strong as Chai's, but my first language was not English. I came to United States when I was almost 7 years old, but I wasn't here for very long. My ex-stepdad was in the Air Force, so we lived in Italy for a couple of years. So I officially came to stay in America when I was 10. So I've been in Arizona ever since. So I know a lot of how the state has grown and kind of evolved. But I got into real estate in as a licensed agent in 2013. But I also went through the Great Recession as a consumer, where I actually bought a property as a young person. I really shouldn't have. I bought it for all the investor centric reasons in my brain, but when I really evaluated where I was risk wise, I really shouldn't have bought it. But I ended up having to short sell a home. So we bought a house for 175,000 in Santan Valley, and we ended up short selling it for 75,000, which
Oh, wow.
really, now at the time when you're going through that pain and that like terrible experience,
But
um,
is this 2008?
yeah,
Okay.
2008. I bought it in 2006 and we ended up
Yeah.
shorting it in 2010.
Okay.
So it wasn't like an overnight process. So what I did is I actually bought that property with a really good friend of mine. I was actually trying to sub to it and I had no idea I was trying to sub to it. But we were like, hey, and my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, we were just trying to take over the mortgage and I still own this house with my roommate. She would not allow us to just take over the mortgage. She was adamant about keeping the property. And I was like, okay, well, our family's growing. We can't continue sharing a house. And so my boyfriend at the time got frustrated and went and bought a house in the city of Maricopa. While I was in Colombia
Oh
seeing
my God.
family, he's like, I'm just gonna go get us a house. I'm like, okay. Um, so when we came back, again, we had been trying to like make reason with her and it wasn't happening. So we at that point we decided, okay, we bought it in 2009. We were still paying for half the mortgage. And then I said, I can't keep up doing this anymore. We either have to get a renter or we need to sell it and short sell it. Because short selling at the time was very, very like normal. So
Yeah.
we short sold. We sold it for $75,000. When you short sell, I know we're so focused on the real estate stuff, right? And what makes me unique when I'm talking to sellers is that it does not just impact their mortgage. If you have credit cards, if you have car payments, if you have any kind of line of any kind of credit, that gets screwed too. So when you're talking to sellers, you cannot be singularly focused on their mortgage. You should be asking questions about how else they're impacted. So when you're going to give them solutions and ways to help them, that you're going to see how else you can help because their credit score is going to take a tank. Like, do they have income? what other credit cards may need to be incorporated. Like if you're doing a sub two and they're in this situation, like a pre-foreclosure, you should be asking what else should be paid off at the same time to really help them and really make sense of what that could look like for them.
So this happens regardless of market conditions?
The short sale process?
Yeah, so I just went through a short sale process for one of the buyers, one of my friend's dad, basically. They bought a house short sale, not, I
Mhm.
mean, they didn't have to sell, but the person who sold had to sell it short because the market is, I mean, the house is, I mean, in a top condition, just
If
not,
it's tied to
yeah,
their personal name, the answer is yes. Their credit
okay.
score is going to take a tank. Credit cards are going to close on them even. Like I had never missed a credit card payment when I short sold, and all my credit cards all stopped.
Oh
Like
my
they're-
God.
yeah. So I no longer had access to any of my credit, even though I had never missed a payment. So it was incredibly, like it was very stressful, even though
Wow.
looking at the bigger picture, we're like, okay, well, my husband already bought a house. We already have cars. Like my immediate need for financing wasn't there, but it was still stressful because now I had to work through like a debt consolidation company to figure out. And by the way, this is how you can actually create more leads for yourself if you go get affiliates who do debt consolidation. So when you're talking to pre-foreclosures, you could say, would you like one of our resources to help you with your debt consolidation efforts? So that's an approach any of you who might be working pre-foreclosures can take. And now you don't have to help them with the debt consolidation, but you should get an affiliate for sending that lead over because they're going to need more help than just the house. So your friend Chai may have actually needed help in other ways when they were going through that short sell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I mean, great answer. I did not know that, honestly.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the short sale impacts people's lives that much. I thought short sale was a necessary means because market is not supporting.
Yeah. No,
Someone who,
no.
yeah,
If it's tied to your credit score, the only people who don't
yeah,
get impacted in those ways are investors, because your corporate structure should be set up in a way to protect
to
you
protect
and
it.
your credit.
Yeah,
And you, I mean, if you short sell in an entity, you just don't use that entity anymore.
yeah.
It's unfortunately that is that easy. Okay, so that was me before I was even an agent. And then through the process of buying a house in Maricopa, I really loved the experience we had with our agent who happened to be my husband's other cousin. Sorry, guys, he's Latino. There's cousins for every,
Yeah,
or, so if you need something, just let me know. We probably have a cousin that does it. But anyway, so when I was asking her about what that looked like, and or a Theo, that's right, Jose. And so she was telling me she does this on the side. She's a teacher, and I was like, wow, like I didn't realize it. And that makes sense to me because we could only go see houses in the evening, like late afternoon, because we have jobs, or the weekends. So it didn't interfere with her day job. So I was like, I can go get my license. So I went and got my license in 2013 and I started doing it as a side hustle and for me, it was quickly for somebody who really wasn't making this like that much in my corporate experience. I was in food service. Um, I quickly made anywhere between 50 to 70 grand pretty regularly as a side hustle. And for me, that was a lot of money because like I think I had grown to making around 80 to 100 grand through my leadership role in corporate. And so the fact that I could match that as a part-time job, I was like, this is weird.
yeah.
Yeah. So my husband, though, he got tired of his job, and I made him go get his real estate license. And I said, hey, how about you go get your license? I already have a pipeline of clients. And then instead of me helping them, you help them. And then that's how you can leave the job you're not enjoying anymore. So that's the way we transition. So obviously I'm a social bird. I don't mind doing Zooms and like talking and this, that, and the other. And so he started taking my pipeline of business, doing that as an agent. And I kept moving up the ladder in my corporate environment. Like, my goal was to be a director. That was like my dream. I was like, I never see women directors in food service. Like literally had never seen them, and the point that I decided to say that. By the time I became a director, I think I had met 2 women in that leadership role
In
the
that
whole
space.
time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So, when we decided to get into investing in 2021, it was because of all of what happened in COVID in 2020, where the I had to let people go that I didn't feel deserved to be let go. And I was like, well, it's just a matter of time when it's my name up
My time.
for
Yeah.
that. So I decided that we needed to kind of have another vertical in real estate that was more passive.
Yeah.
And I'm somebody who, when I learn something, I get bored of it 2 years later. So in my resume at my corporations, I moved roles pretty regularly. Almost every 2 years, I was in a different role. Or I was going up the corporate ladder. Uh, because I would get bored. I maximize
So,
my knowledge on it and I'm bored. Yeah.
so one of the things about successful people I have seen is successful people get passionate about something very quickly, and
Mhm.
they will go to the ends of the earth to make sure they are perfecting that thing. And after you perfect it, then you get bored of it and they start looking for another thing. And that's what makes them successful. So
Mhm.
don't beat yourself over getting bored of anything. I love that part about,
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's going up the ladder for sure.
Yeah. And
Sorry,
so
go ahead.
once I joined sub 2, and I mean, you guys may have gotten this experience too. It's like, holy crap, there's always something new or always something else or a different loophole or a strategy that you can deploy. So I love how it engages my brain, and I'm constantly thinking of, hey, did you think about doing it this way or whatever? And one of the things I've really loved about my friendship with Chai is I can reach out to Chai. I'm like, Chai, what am I not seeing here? Like, what other options do I have? And surrounding yourself with other people who are motivated by all of the ways that we can do real estate and how many exits, like literally, it was like 1 a.m. in the morning. I couldn't sleep. It was during COVID. I saw a Jerry Norton YouTube, which led me to a Pace Morby YouTube. And that Pace Morby YouTube ad was like, do you want to listen about the 27 exit strategies of real estate? So I clicked on it. Of course, now I'm in the Pace World funnel. And I had to listen to everything that man had to say. I remember I went to sleep close to 3 o'clock in the morning because I watched his YouTube video that, you register your name and whatever. And then he walked through all the strategies in this big, like, whiteboard he used to have.
Oh, yes.
And so I was hooked at that point. And so not even a month later, I paid to join Sub 2. Yeah.
So, I mean, great explanation about your background
Mhm.
and how it came about, like overall investing as a career. So one thing, just a fun fact about what Ingrid said, in 2021, she was looking at real estate as a side hustle. And I mean, the times were tough. I was in corporate. I luckily had more experience at the time. So I was waiting for COVID to happen, pretty much, that someday COVID will happen and I'll just get pushed out of my corporate job. That I tried to push myself out in 2020, I mean, sorry, 2017. And then they put me in this really cool role. They started a startup within this oil and gas company called Step Team. Uh, and again, my company's name is Step Up. It's not a coincidence. So I was given this really cool role, which is the reason why I stayed. But COVID is the time when a lot of people had to really, really consider another income source. Okay. And the fun fact is today, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are doing this as a lifestyle choice. More and
Mhm.
more people are doing side hustle while they have a job, and it's becoming a norm because I mean, people are getting ruthless about kicking employees out. There is no protection. You live in America. It's not like you are in Europe where, I mean, even after you get kicked out, you have 1 year of salary coming in. I mean, you don't have enough time to respond in a
No.
country like America. We are a capitalist economy at the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
So it is what it is, but that makes you more like, that makes you tougher. That's what opens opportunities. That's why this is land of opportunities, not
Yeah.
because like you come here and people just hand you opportunities. It just prepares you to take down opportunities as they come your way. So
Mhm.
with that being said, what I really want to deep dive into your flipping experience today is how I mean, you touched on your story about your first flip already. And at the time, market was super conducive for flips. I mean, you could do a shitty rehab and put it on the market and still get 10 offers above asking. But today it's not the same. And I've met your partner, Stephen Hunt and Angel Hunt. And I mean, you guys are super passionate about design and the process and like following the project timeline and managing the project. So how is it different? I mean, radically different compared to 2021. And I'm seeing it, so I want to see how you are seeing it.
Well, I would say, so I'm responsible for acquisitions. All right.
Okay.
So I'm the money math. A quick update though. I'm no longer flipping with Steven and Angel.
Okay.
We're all flipping independently. I still love them. I literally just sold them a wholesale deal and closed on it
Oh,
yesterday.
perfect.
So we still have a great relationship. It's just, and it's actually a lot of it has to do with market conditions, um, where we are having to work a lot harder to make less on a flip. And when you're partnered with someone and you realize, okay, if I just wholesale to them, I'll make as much as I was supposed to make if we had flipped together. So maybe that's just the approach we take. And maybe they're going to make $15,000, $20,000 more than they would have taken. But it makes more sense for us economically. I'm actually pretty certain in my brain that if I get a beautiful luxury opportunity that like the spread is ridiculous, that I would still flip with Steven because you are absolutely right. He has an incredible eye for design. I'm not that person. I'm his editor. He would put things together for me and ask for my opinion because I'm still very practical of like, hey,
And sorry to interrupt you. I just want everyone to take a note of what Ingrid is saying here. Is what she's talking about is not about the current conditions or how you should be doing business. It's about knowing yourself and introspecting. So that is what's going to get you anywhere. I mean,
Mhm.
market conditions are going to change over the years, but
Yeah.
what's gonna really make you successful is knowing about yourself. And that is the hardest part of, I mean, being an entrepreneur. Sorry,
Yes.
keep going.
Yeah, no worries. So, Stephen and I are still doing our podcast together. I'm sure we're going to do special projects together still, but like right now, we're still working on a very big project out in Phoenix. So we're kind of closing out our book of business that we've had. We have a really big project in Flagstaff. We have a really big project in Phoenix that we're doing, and we just closed out a couple of flips that and we haven't closed out on one. So I want to be very clear about one of the ones that have been lingering because that part of the market, at least local to Arizona, has taken a tank. And now we need to figure out how do we exit. So we have a plan A and a plan B as a result of what's happened there. But what I was going to mention is that if you haven't flipped before, what's really important and kind of rings through the know thyself part is that you need to have people who are going to complement the things that you either are not good at or you'd rather don't want to spend time. So I'll give you an example. A few of the flips that I did, I used to leverage Anna Martinez, who's our project manager with Steven and helps us with all those things. She walked the flips with me. We would walk through the process and like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about budget. Does that budget make sense for what this property needs? And she would give me a yes or a no. And it doesn't matter what GC it is. Even if they say yes, put another 10 to 15K on top of it, because no matter what, they're never right on their numbers. And this is not just Anna, this is everybody.
Neither are they right, nor are you right, ever.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you are like, if you're in a bad mood and you show up to a flip to start doing scope of work, you're going to miss 10 things.
Oh, yeah.
There is hardly ever a time that you're going to touch on 100% of the scope in one visit.
Totally.
So, yeah.
1,000%. And that's why you need to start creating SOPs too. Like you should have a checklist to remind you of the things that you may have not thought about thinking through, like age of all your systems. So your HVAC, you're here in Arizona, we're not built like the East Coast. Like I swear they built the East Coast to be like that, to last like 300 years. I don't know. Our properties out here in Arizona, if they're built in the 1970s or older, all of their sewer is failing. We used cast iron that like, so you have to have 10 to 15 grand put aside for that if you don't do a scope. Like honestly, do a scope like when you're considering properties. But what I was going to mention is that you need to partner up with people who are going to give you that second pair of eyes and have the proven experience that a flip is going to cost a certain amount of money, so that when you're walking it, it makes sense and that you're not going to over leverage yourself going into a deal. So, I think Lauren had a question of what price point was the deal that was tanked. The property had comps to sell at 550, and even at 520, it's not selling. So this is Litchfield Park.
This, the one in Austin?
No, that was a
No,
different.
okay.
Yeah. Guys, I've actually lost money in more than one deal. If you're going to get into
so have I. I mean,
yeah.
in business, you do lose money. And if you're not, I was reading someone's Instagram post. Like if you're not okay to lose 100 million, you're never going to get to a billion.
Mhm.
That's how it is.
Mhm.
And you do lose money. You have to take risks, and risks is what gets you to the next level. But
Right.
these are the places, I mean, it's underwriting power hour, or what Ingryd is doing with her podcast. I mean, all these are free resources of actual people that are doing actual business. So this is where you need to get engaged and socialize. Sorry,
Yes.
go ahead.
No, of course. So there are pockets in Arizona where the prices have become extremely localized. But if you're getting into flipping before you even sign a contract, you need to understand the numbers of that localized market, and you need somebody you can trust to give you the straight up numbers that it's going to cost for you to budget. In Arizona right now, a cosmetic deal is around $30 to $35 a square foot. And by cosmetic, I mean paint, flooring, maybe cabinets and countertops, but that's it. That's cosmetic. Okay. Anything above that will start incrementally increasing your price per square foot. And if it's a gut, you're talking about $50 to $55 a square foot minimum. So when people send me deals, I do rough of the back of the napkin math. And depending on how good or bad the pictures are, I do back of the napkin math and I send back to that wholesaler. I even did this with Brad out of Houston. He sent me a deal and I was like, no, you locked it up too high.
Too high. Yep.
I will say too high for my risk tolerance. There's some investors in Arizona who are so dialed in to where they get materials and where they get they're just very, very experienced beyond me. And their cost does not make sense to what I just said. Their cost is so much lower. I mean, they may even have their crews just on staff, so they don't have that labor issue I do. Okay. Where I pay per project. He might just pay a salary to them all year. And these are just projects they have to get done, as an example. And so I can't compete with him. So there's some investors that are okay taking $20,000, $30,000 home on a project because their risk tolerance is much, much lower than mine, because they already have a 250 single family home portfolio, and they have this staff that helps them with the flipping, and they've, and there's different levels at flipping, right? Like you already have, maybe you don't even have to go through a wholesaler to get your materials. They're going straight to the manufacturer. They have a flex warehouse where they keep materials that are typical. So like think drywall, molding, paint. I don't know about paint, but just materials that last, your fixtures. So he can bulk buy, hold on, and use it as he goes on his projects. And now he's controlling the supply chain of how he flips. And I keep saying he because I know exactly who he is here in Arizona. His name is Zach Apes. He's freaking awesome. He's a really, really great guy. I'm happy to see if maybe I can have him be on the Zoom with you guys at some point. But
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I can't compete with Zach. If you sent that same deal with Zach, Zach would have been like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Because he has the staff to make those numbers work where I can't. I'm doing 7 to 10 flips a year, right? Somebody asked if I'm still flipping. Yes, I am still flipping. Because one of my ultimate goals with the cash injection you get with flips is to pay off some private money lenders that I have on my long-term buy and holds. So I have 10 assets. A couple of them are notes, but a couple of them are, the rest of them are actual properties that have long-term PMLs attached. And one of my goals is to pay off the PML.
Yeah, we've got a seat right here for you.
No, this is, so one thing about people like Zach, and I was listening to this podcast on bigger pockets. Back when I first started, I didn't know about sub 2 and these things. Bigger pockets was like my go-to place, and I would send like anybody who asked me how to get into real estate, I would send them to bigger pockets. Now, obviously, I send them to sub 2 resources because sub 2 has just grown into this amazing warm community that people from all like I mean, no matter where you're from, you're immigrant or American or white, black, Indian, whatever you are, there is resources and there is help for everyone. So that's why I've sent people to sub 2. But fun fact about Zach, people like Zach is they can always pay more than what you can and still make more money than you can. So there are people, and I'm trying to take my business that way. But again, we have different plans at the moment. But last year I did give it a thought. We have decent amount of portfolio, like you guys already know. And some of the resources that we use for our portfolio and property management, which is in-house, we can use the same people for our flips. And when you start doing enough amount of flips, you can start buying material in bulk, which we can store in a lot of these houses. I mean, some of the Airbnbs we have, they have 4 car garages, like massive garages that we can use as warehouses. And then when you are not using all these materials, you can even sell those materials. That's how people stack businesses that support each other. So if I order a container full of flooring, I can offer it to other flippers in the market because I know them. And still get a better deal for them compared to other places. So this is amazing point. But again, when you are starting out, there is always other people in complementary roles that are also starting out, such as wholesalers. So when you're starting out as a brand new flipper, you have, if the wholesaler went to Zach, obviously Zach is going to buy that deal for a higher price than you, so you have no chance. But the world works in mysterious ways. And someone said this to me a few days ago: when you have a good thought and good intention, the world almost conspires to make you successful. So believe in that.
Absolutely does.
Believe in that, because what happens is, just like you are newbie in flipping, if you are trying to flip, there are wholesalers that are newbies. And guess what? Like, newbies have more energy. They're going to go out there more than me or Ingryd, because we are set in our own ways. We have our network. We wait for those phone calls for a deal, but you will go out to a local meetup a Zoom like this, maybe engage in chat and you will do things that we don't typically do
Mhm.
anymore. And that's how you will land a good deal that is better for you. In the sense that you will buy it deeper than what we can
Yep.
just by showing up. And that's how you're gonna buy it more conservative and still be successful or maybe come out positive in that flip. So believe in all those things. And everybody who is successful today started somewhere. So starting today and taking action. Don't wait for market to change. Don't wait for certain things to come your way automatically. Just start with what you have. Start with like engaging in chat. Ingrid just put her total buy box in here. Connect with Ingrid. I mean, if you have deals, send her way. Maybe she will respond and help you in your place. So uh, amazing, breakdown of the whole process. Ingrid, thank you so much for that. So we'll change gears a little bit. And Jade, I'm sorry. I'm personally trying to learn so much from Ingrid's experience because they flip more than us.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking these questions because they are on my mind every day. So feel free to interject and ask any questions you have. But in the meantime, in today's market, and I keep telling all of our attendees in this underwriting power hour that today's market is operators market. Okay. 2021 was person who is taking action was getting seeing success. Literally, they didn't have to be great at one thing. They just had to take action. But today, not only do you have to take action, you have to be good at what you do. Like for you to sell a flip on the market at a good price, that flip has to be, or that flip has to stand out compared to other properties on the market because the inventory has grown here in Texas. I don't know about Arizona. So how are you guys mitigating these issues with the current market situation? Or what are you doing different?
So something that I think is tried and true, regardless of what market you're in, is you make your money when you buy, period. It doesn't matter what market you're in. So, but right now in this market, that's way more important than anything else. So one thing that I do a little bit differently if I'm looking at a property somebody sends me is I will tell you that here's my no, but here's what will convert this into a yes. And I will break it down for people. So when I text back, I'll say, here's my ARV of that, what profit I would need to make from it, what I believe the likely reno is, and I may just overshoot the rental a little bit because if I haven't walked it, I have to. What my holding cost is, what it costs to sell, my selling costs. And so then here's my MAO, my max allowable offer. So I usually like to give that feedback because if they keep getting no's, as a wholesaler, they need to know what would convert that no into a yes. And if they see me as somebody willing to give them that feedback, like I was mentioning, even Brad had a deal out here and he's like, wow, literally on my text message, he's like, wow, thank you so much for actually telling me what would make this a yes. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Because I want you to come to me and do deals with me. And it's not helpful if all I'm telling you is like, no, I want to create an actual relationship. So I think right now that is number one, buy right. Number two is that so it has to be eye candy. So when somebody walks in, it has to attract that buyer. And so in the past, when we were in an environment where anything would sell, now you have to try harder. Like you're no longer like hot shit. Now you have to actually stage your properties at minimum, virtually stage your properties if you're going to go to MLS at minimum. And if you don't have like a strong staging budget, but one of the things that we decided was if anything is going to be above 450, so a $450,000 price point, we have to stage it because you're now playing with a price point above the median price point. So in Arizona, the median price point is actually 420. What is the median price point? That means like the average blue collar, average, household household is looking to buy a house around that price range. And so that we don't necessarily need to stage, but we definitely virtually stage now. Anything above that, we really need to stage with actual furniture that makes it look inviting and welcome. All the tips and tricks that I learned when I became an agent, where it's like, make it smell like, a cookie was just baked and, again, it has to be inviting. You have to do some of those tricks. I do think that you need to hire an agent who's not just going to list it, but who's, whether it's themselves or somebody else, like they're actually going to hold open houses. They're actually going to farm. It's called farming the neighborhood, where you're putting flyers in every house so that they can start talking about this house that's coming on the market. You need a coming soon strategy. So on MLS, if
You can no longer use that discount agent that who just got their license and willing to give away 2% back to you. You need to use a full price agent who knows what they're doing. And
Yeah.
one of those agents is LaMichael Curry out of Austin. We partnered up on 2 deals with him, and they sold because he did exactly what Ingryd said. He did, they do so many cool tricks. I didn't know about the flyer part you just said, but they did a broker's open house, then regular open houses, because when you call brokers and other agents, they are going to tell you, okay, this is not going to sell. They are going to be straight up with you because they are not, they have no incentive to sugarcoat anything for you. So there are so many cool things. So important thing, what you just said.
Absolutely. And then the other thing I was going to mention is, like understand what their marketing plan is. So when you're hiring an agent, my husband and I do provide listing services out here in Arizona because we're both agents, and we do give a discount, but we don't take quality away because our goal is to have volume, right? So our goal is to have more opportunities with you, and a lot of these things come with just hiring us. But anyway, I even know my limitations though. Just because I can sell a house in Arizona doesn't mean I am the market expert. We have a flip that's going on in Flagstaff, and we hired a really excellent agent up there. Even though we could have saved by being the listing agents, the goal is not to save. The goal is to sell. So we hired an investor-friendly agent, and we told him, we will give you full 3%, bring a buyer. I don't want to discount on that. Like, that's how serious we were. And getting a 3% listing is actually really hard to do now because we've not only gotten pressure as investors, in how we underwrite, but there was a settlement that happened with realtors that now they can't just say that a certain commission is typical. It's always negotiable. But we use that to leverage his relationships. Like, we already know he's a part of all the country clubs that golf. We already know that he has all these investors that he constantly talks to. In fact, if he does a really great job up there, we may even use him down here because he has very specific connections that we want to take advantage of. And so again, I don't want to save, I want to sell. And that's important to me.
So what it comes down to in today's market is this flipping business is one of the few businesses that is a cash generation business. For those who are starting out, they have very few things they can do to generate cash for their business unless they have some other active income, such as maybe selling insurance or anything around real estate, other than their full-time job. But for someone who wants to quit their job and dive into real estate full-time, they are going to have to remember two things. Okay. One is before they start building wealth, they need to have active income. Okay. That active income is going to come from businesses like flipping. Don't try to hold on to properties just because someone told you rentals is a way to build wealth. If you don't have money in pocket to pay your shit like today, sell that. Take that cash and use that cash to generate more leads, buy more properties, and and flip them or wholesale them, whatever it is you do. And secondly, more importantly, for today's market, what Ingrid just mentioned, to summarize that in one sentence, this is operator's business. Like you need to be a good operator to run your business properly. For example, if you get a house under contract with a seller and you don't know anything about flipping, you are better off wholesaling that property. Because guess what? There is at least 100 things that need to go right for your flip to make more money than wholesaling. Ingrid herself has found a way to make same amount of money with less effort by collaborating in a different way with her existing partner. She just touched on it a few minutes ago. So when experienced people like Ingrid are doing that, someone starting out, I mean, they are basically flipping a coin at that point. If you are taking down, but again, a lot of people like Pay Small before himself. He comes from a background where he was a contractor for thousands of projects that he did. He knows everything about rehab. Okay. So for someone like Pace to get into flipping was a piece of cake. He just had not thought about it the way investors think. That was his starting point in his career. If you go back and hear his stories, I mean, it's incredible how he got into it. But for someone with this unique skill set, they are coming into this world of real estate. For them, things are different. So again, going back to know thyself, going back, it all goes back to the same thing. Know thyself, which is know yourself, introspect, and all these things are going to come from trying different things. Okay. So it doesn't hurt to try, but there are a lot of different ways to try with lot less liability. Okay. Helping Ingrid and being on her team is just as good as trying yourself. Trying yourself is gonna get you into a bad flip, and then it's gonna take you a year, 2 years to recover. And not only are you not gonna make money, or even if you made money, you're gonna lose a lot of time to get out of a bad situation. So in today's market, be very careful with what you're doing. Talk to, it's like what they say, measure twice, cut once. So be very, very careful. I see so many flips going wrong. For those, most of you probably already know that we are a direct lender. We are a direct hard money lender in Texas, and we are working with a lot of flippers. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to start our guest program on this underwriting power hour with Ingryd, is because we see a lot of flips going wrong, and a lot of people that attend our calls also become our borrowers. So supporting our borrowers and showing them the right way to do things is almost our responsibility in this market. So Ingryd, with all this, what is your goal for 2025? How do you see, what I want, what I mean by goal, and I don't want to confuse everyone, because the entire January we've been seeing everyone's Instagram filled with 2025 goals. I don't mean I don't mean goals in the same way. I mean goals in the sense that for flipping specifically, what is your goal and how do you see that unfolding? Because we have a new president and market is still inflationary and things are still uncertain. So what are you putting your bets on that you really believe in and that will accomplish your goals?
Okay, I'll give you a flip and then or my fix and flip and then like another secondary way that we're trying to help the market. So one for my fixing and flipping goal, we want to flip between 7 and 10 houses with a $40,000 to $50,000 profit. And so our stretch goal there is 500,000, right? Like that's ultimately where we want to land and shoot for as far as fixing and flipping here in Arizona. And that's take home for us. So now I'm not talking about revenue, I'm talking about profit, which is an important distinction. And then as far as what we understand is happening in the market, I did team up with Pace to help with selling creative deals that are not cash flowing. What we are seeing is a shift in people saying, yes, I'll do creative. And more people are getting contracts for creative. And I would say we're behind Texas on this, by the way, because I think Texas started doing this a long time ago. You guys are just, you're really known for this in your market. In Arizona, we don't have a strong wrap buyer environment. And so myself and Pace are now committing ourselves to do that. So those are my two active income goals is to help 50 families get into these creative deals of people who've, and I say people, but really a lot of them are sub-2 students who have gotten properties under contract and have not been able to obtain a wrap buyer or somebody not an investor. Some might work for investors. Let's say it's no HOA, more than 1,900 square feet. The only way that you'll cash flow is to do co-living. So we are keeping an eye out for those. But for the most part, a lot of them are meant for homestead buyers. So people who just want to live in there, be there with their family. And so I don't know where we're going to evolve this to, if there's going to be some sort of fund around this, but a lot of them want to finance part or all of their down payment, but they have verifiable income. So part of what we want to do there is help them finance that piece because at least it's backed by real estate. And if they default, we can just do it all over again, right? And so we are being picky about what houses we are teaming up for this. So a lot of the houses are actually very turnkey, very ready to be put back on the market, very retail ready because these have actually lasted on MLS. And so our goal is to make our money from the wholesale fee that gets put up front and then the financing fee that gets, put into it passively through financing the down payment. So those are the two active incomes right now that I'm primarily focused on. Flipping, which I put my buy box in there, and then properties that are creative. Now I'll always have a buy and hold, but to your point, Chai,
Every good investor needs a buy and hold to wash everything they make.
right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. I mean, I love the answer, but I want to ask, deep dive into that in just a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I want to know what you guys believe is going to work in 2025. So are you thinking, and I'll share my thoughts in a little bit as well, but I'll give you an example. I went to, so we are, we are lenders in Texas. We are working on building a lot more relationships with banks. And guys, I'm so sorry if you have a lot of background noise here.
It's not that bad.
If not, okay.
You're
perfect.
fine. Mhm.
So one of the bankers invited us for this breakfast with the owner of the bank. His name is Sam Susser. I actually put a small reel on my Instagram about this guy. So this guy has these Warren Buffett vibes, like amazing guy. Like when he starts talking, you just want to keep listening. So this guy had amazing thoughts about how the market sentiment is going to change in 2025, because no matter what side you're on, like Republicans, Democrats, doesn't matter. The result is ours. You have to live with it for 4 years. So now, so until the end, like until elections were over, people were not making any plans in terms of what they are going to do because of multiple reasons. Again, everybody has gone through COVID and everybody's seen market going crazy and then shut down suddenly because of the inflationary environment. They put a pause on it, and what it's called is engineered inflation. Or so the way they are managing it, they don't want the 2008 to happen. That's why the interest rates are higher, and that's why they put a pause on this whole economic growth. But now in 2025, this gentleman believes that market is going to do well, not only because we have been put on pause for a year and a half already. So the inflation is, I mean, it's not as good as we would like, but we are getting there. Number one. Second is we know the result of the elections and we have to live with whatever it is, if you like it or not. So now there is one leadership in America, and that leadership is making their plans, and people can make their plans around this leadership's plan. So now that people are making long-term plans, they are going to start executing those plans, and that execution is going to bring a lot of stability in the market, and that stability will result in growth. So in terms of real estate, what are you guys seeing or believing in that? Do you see real estate market staying stable like this, or do you see inventory going up, which means it's a sign of recession coming our way, or are you more bullish in terms of growth? That was sorry, it's a loaded question, but
Mhm.
share whatever thoughts you're based on what you're seeing in the.
First of all, in order for me to have the title of investor's going to invest. So, but I will say this, I'm probably not as optimistic as the bank owner, simply because I am tracking year over year data, and the year over year data is not necessarily showing signs of that optimism. But if you're going to ask me, would you rather flip in a flat, boring environment, or would you rather flip in a volatile environment? I'll take boring and flat all day and twice on
Perfect.
Sunday. So I
love it.
feel that if we have enough information, which the Fed has already signaled that they're probably not going to do cuts, then I know my numbers. Hey, interest rates are going to stay in the 7%. If that's the case, where are buyers going to buy, right? And so if you're going to do any flips in Arizona that are from 550 to like $1 million, you're going to struggle the most, because that is the price point that middle America is shooting for, but can't afford a monthly payment on. The median price point of I'll say less than 550 or less than 500 and down, they're going to be able to afford it even with the 7.5 interest rate price. So I will still flip and I will still invest in this market. I'm just going to be focused on those houses that everybody can buy. I am not going to be focused on those properties that is really going to get hard to find a buyer. That's that 550 or 500 to $1 million. I actually want to get into luxury. The data for luxury, like ultra luxury, over $1 million, over $2 million.
Just going to ask you that question, but
It's
thank you for that answer.
really good in Arizona. Those numbers are excellent. Like, and speaking of Warren Buffett, Mr. Buffett has sold way more stock than he has ever sold, and is sitting on a shit ton of cash. Like, I can't name it right now, but Google it, because and when you see big guys like that hoarding cash, it feels like it's not as an optimistic environment, because why would they hold cash? Because they want to buy things on discount. When do things go on discount, companies or otherwise? When the market isn't doing well. So I actually have an opposite perspective. Again, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think we're going to have a pretty flat year. And so I'm hedging against that flat year by using that as my math going forward.
Yeah, I mean, what you said in the beginning about flat versus volatile, that is, I mean, that is the perfect answer for what I was asking for. And for those who believe that this is going to be flat, your underwriting will probably have to stay flat as well. You don't have to change your numbers. So fix your numbers, make them conservative enough for your personal style, for your personal skill set. Like if you are a newbie, build your numbers or your underwriting a model based on more conservative form or conservative number for that matter. And that's what we are doing here. The reason we wanted to start this underwriting power hour group, and again, me and Jada and Ingrid, we are all doing a lot more things to improve our social media presence. And if you're not doing that, I don't know why, but everybody should be doing that. I'm the last one that I would have thought would do this kind of stuff because I'm never consistent. I'm not worried about speaking on podcasts or interviews,
Let's put it that way.
but I'm not very consistent person. In fact, this is the one thing, Jada and underwriting power hour are the two reasons why I do this consistently. Jada is my accountability partner. In fact, I'm here on the ski slopes. If you guys don't believe me, you can see, I guess my blurred screen may not show you. I'm here on ski slopes for two reasons I wanted to attend today's call. One is obviously because it's Ingryd coming on our power hour for the first time as a first guest. As a respect to my good friend Ingryd, I didn't want to miss this for the world. And also my personal goal of staying consistent on certain things in life. This is my podcast to stay consistent. So I want you all to remind me that every time I even think about missing this podcast. Okay. Or I'm sorry, the power hour. But anyways, going back to our discussion about 2025 and the plans and underwriting for 2020. So the reason I asked Ingrid this question is because the reason we come together on this power hour is to talk about underwriting. Okay. And underwriting needs data. Okay. So market data. For you to get that market data, you are going to get that from people like Ingryd that have their hand on the market pulse at all time. Okay. So people who are experienced, this is what you ask them. Okay. All the time. Like when you go to these meetups, the reason I'm asking all these questions to Ingryd, even though I know these answers, I want someone to validate my answers for me. So it's not just you getting any value from Ingryd. Even people like me, do the same thing as Ingryd, have a lot to learn from other investors because I want the validation because the owner of this bank is telling or pushing his agenda. He wants more people to get a loan from him. But what if I'm not able to pay that loan? What is he going to do? He's going to come and take all the properties I have. So I'm personally guaranteeing these things. So people whose interests are completely opposite of yours, if they are giving you advice and making it look like the grass is super green on the other side, don't believe it automatically. Okay. But people whose interests are aligned with yours are the ones who are going to give you the right advice. So I'm not saying the bank's owner is giving any bad advice. He's trying to believe. And the more people believe in one thing, the more chances there are of it coming true. So this market staying flat or growing will come true if we all believe. Okay. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say that is the power of media and the power of governance. So if you believe in your leaders and if you believe at the end of the day, we are humans who are built on how our mindsets are all connected. And so if we all collectively feel more optimistic, that actually translates into dollars spent in the market. If we collectively believe that things are more negative, think about the Great Depression. That didn't just happen. It actually was a viral negative perspective on what the market was doing. It wasn't just an economical thing. So I strongly believe in that. I've read a lot of Napoleon Hill. If I could give you any book that you should consider reading, and I was actually thinking about that in the shower this morning, to read. Gosh, there's the Devil book that he wrote. Shoot, I'm trying to think of it right now. But I used to listen to it like at least twice a year. And let me see if I can find it real quick. I do believe it's a collective conscious.
Outwitting the Devil, Lucas
Out-
and yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Outwitting the Devil. And it's so good because there's, I think back to what you said earlier, Chai. The world is going to conspire, the universe, God, whatever it is you guys believe in, I believe in God. It's going to conspire to manifest whatever you tell it it needs to do. And so if collective as a country, we decide something negative or something positive, the universe is going to conspire to that. And so whether or not you like who is in power right now, I think it's important for us to stay positive and stay optimistic. Because at the end of the day, you know, your belief and faith that things will work out, you know, there's a great Martin Luther King Jr. thing where it's like justice has a bend, or good or bad has a bend to justice and the righteous and something like that. So that's how I believe. I believe in all of that. So anyway, I know that gets a little hokey, but ultimately, I don't care who's in power.
No.
I have to control what's in my environment, and staying positive is a requirement.
So one thing I wanna, so that's all the questions I had. We can go through all the questions in the chat that we missed. But one thing I wanna remind in today's market, especially to everyone, would you recommend Ingryd to anybody today to start a virtual flip tomorrow?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, so if you, no matter what market you're in, there is equal opportunity everywhere if you do your numbers right. So first, perfect your own market before you go to other markets. I've only reached out, I've only gone out to other Texas cities so far. Okay, even after 10 years of experience, I do not, especially in 2025. If it was 2021, I would say maybe, yeah, why not? Try it. If you get a good deal in Arizona, try it. Maybe add your flight budget to your numbers. But other than that, you should be able to do it. But today, you need to really know your local support group that is going to support you in your flip, which is contractors, wholesalers, realtors, and anybody else you need, maybe a staging company, a designer, whatever else you do. And we are using all of that today. Okay. I have a designer I use, and I have a staging company I use, virtual and real. So depending on the property, I'm doing everything by the book to become I'm using this opportunity to improve myself as a good operator in this business, because good operators will last for a long time. If you don't work on, and market needs that from you today. So with that being said, Jada, did we miss any questions from the chat? Do you want to go over?
Can I just chime in for one last thing
Yeah,
about
for
what you said there? If it's your first, don't do it. But if you've taken the time to build really great relationships like with Chai, I would flip with Chai in Houston any day. But if, like, let's say you have a really great deal in Phoenix and you're not local to Phoenix, that's something I would consider partnering up. But even if it's just a wholesale to me, we might expose you to some of what we're doing just so that you can get some experience, so that at least, because like my value is that you're bringing me a deal that I can actually flip. And I'll be honest with you, if I say this is too much of a flip for me, let's just dispo it together, right? So if that's your virtual experience, I'm willing to do that if it makes sense.
Oh, Chai, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I just said, yeah, that was on point what Ingrid said. So with partnering up on flips, I just have one very specific advice is, and I've recently gone through that in multiple cities, and some worked out, some really went, horribly wrong, because they wanted, so I told them, okay, if we do certain split, then I will do everything for you and you don't have to do anything. But if you want me to take lower cut, then I'll just be in a consultant role. And that did not go very well because they ignored all the advice I gave them, and just kept using some calculators from different places and doing different things. And so anyways, it's amazing. Like, it's some of my really close friends who, and it's nothing they did wrong, but I'm just saying you need to, if you're using someone's help, incentivize that person properly.
Yeah.
And again, they did incentivize me properly. They put me only in a consultant role. And after I gave them certain contractors, they couldn't get along with those contractors, but I did in the past. So that kind of worked out not in their favor. They had to change contractors. So I just walked away from that flip at the end of the day. But this is one piece of advice that, I mean, if you're partnering up with someone else other than people here, always come and talk about it here. We will discuss how you should
Well,
structure that.
I would say if you're the one who's more experienced, you need to be more bossy. That like you have to have more control. So I think some of you know me, I'm pretty
Oh,
direct.
so, yeah.
So I would say if you want me to partner, here's my expectations. If those expectations don't work, that's okay. You can go do it on your own or with somebody else, but here's my expectations. And if you've never flipped and here I'm helping you gain knowledge, understand that it's less about earning and more about learning. So I'm not going to, on the very first deal or anything, say, hey, this is a 50-50. So it all takes a conversation about where your experience has been versus my experiences. And I'll be frank, right, my very first deal we did September 2021. I really need to go count my number of flips for, like, I hold assets, right? Not to the number that Chai has. So he's way more experienced, but we are flipping around 7 to 10 pretty regularly a year. And that's a lot for me, for somebody who just quit their W-2 last March. So that's a lot for someone who wasn't doing it full time. I think one place that I could push my goals is that flipping, like how many I'm flipping, but that's active income enough to pay for the bills. I have other things going on, which I have to be mindful of. It's as if I have a W-2. But anyways, Patrick, you asked your question. Are you saying even if we live in the high cost? I'm certainly not saying that, but you have to realize, Patrick, that if you've not flipped and if you want to flip virtually, you need a strong partner who's going to be boots on the ground and do all of the things that are expected to do when you're flipping locally. Because that's how I've lost money in the past, where I didn't have a strong partner. Like if I could go back to my Round Rock property that I jacked up, I would have just wholesaled it. That would have been plan A. I lost $55,000 on that plan, and I virtually did it. Plan B would have been find somebody local that truly is 100% into investing. The partner that I was with was not that person. And so that was my mistake. That was my mistake. And we didn't price right when we went to market, knowing that there was all these economic pressures. We were thinking too greedy. We probably should have priced it to move much, much faster, and we didn't. So those are all economical partner things that you have to be very aware, Patrick, because your risk goes up when you're doing it virtually versus locally. So if your risk is going up doing it virtually, there's a lot of things you have to get right and be aware of.
That is so cool. Thank you so much, Ingrid, for agreeing to come on this Power Hour as our first guest. Guys, if you guys, I don't know if you, I mean, I got so much that I've been looking to talk to. I mean, I've been looking to get from Ingrid myself on this call because again, we all get busy in our lives and we don't get to chat as much, but this was my chance to chat with Ingrid and get in the depths of her business. I got so much value from this, and if you did as well, please go and make a post on your social media, in sub2 group, wherever you think feels comfortable for yourself. Tag Ingrid, tag Jada and myself, and just tell the world about what we are doing. This is a free resource for you. Every Saturday at noon central, we are doing these underwriting power hour calls, and we are gonna switch between underwriting and guest discussions, such as with what we are doing with Ingryd today, every week, and trying to bring more and more value to you guys. So bring more people to this underwriting power hour Facebook group. Invite your friends who you think can get some value from this. And we are happy to look at your next deals every time you bring someone. Jada, do you have any other questions that I missed, or any other questions from the chat?
You had one more that was mainly about how do you manage if you've gone over budget and if your flip has been sitting? Like, what do you do there?
Okay, so that is literally what we're dealing with on our property in Litchfield Park. And again, this is where we're going to have to use our flips to offset our ability to refinance. Okay, so we have a plan A and a plan B. One is we took it off market and we're waiting for, like in Arizona, it has to go 45 days not being on market before the on market number will restart, and it'll be seen as a brand new listing. So we're doing that. We're also staging it so it's a bit more inviting. I had asked, okay, this is where like your partnership matters. So I had asked for us to stage it, but I didn't win. And sometimes you have to understand that against like your partners, right? Like I was like, let's stage it, let's make it inviting, and sometimes your partners have to learn the hard way because sometimes you can't be as influential. But this is what you signed up for when you're in a partnership. So now what we're doing is we've taken it off market. We're waiting those 45 days. They're going to listen to me now. We're going to stage it, putting it on back on market when we list it. Now, the worst case scenario is we do have two flips coming that have a significant potential of making close to triple digits. So as a result of that, we're going to use that money to pay off our PML attached to the property in Litchfield and refinance it and hold on to it if we can't sell it when the market starts going up in Arizona. So every market has a cycle. Most of the United States has this very similar cycle, and it has a lot to do with kids. So most families start buying come April and May, and then June is like the peak. So with us coming back on market around mid-April to late April, that is when we feel we're going to catch the upward trajectory of the peak and hopefully resell at a price that we're still going to take a loss, probably around 15 to 20 grand, but it's a loss we're willing to take instead of having to maneuver money and refinance and keep it. But now we have a very strong plan to say, okay, if plan A doesn't work, then this is plan B. And we've talked through it. That's how we're going to do it. So if your costs do overrun or your timeline does overrun, that's why I go back to the original. If you didn't buy right, you might be putting yourself in a precarious position. Like we are technically in a precarious position, but if we're not doing other flips and getting those numbers right, then we can't offset those costs. So that area, again, things that we can't control, which is the economics of the area, have moved down. Our house was actually priced at the lowest per square foot in that area for all the things it even has to offer. It's like a pool, completely refinished. The front and backyard is mature. The solar is owned, so nobody has to worry about like financing it. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath family room and a living room, open concept. So it had all the things going for it. And we're like, what the heck? Why isn't it selling? So those things are going to happen. And if you're going to be a professional in this environment and be known for that, you can't get one deal-itis. That's just one deal, right? We had 3 or 4 flips other than that one going at the same time, and those will help us offset what this one deal will do, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, that was huge.
Yeah, so I mean, leveraging your other resources and everything else you're doing in your business. So this is, I mean, what you just said sparks one thought in my mind that whenever I'm developing my business to go to the next level, I'm always experimenting with all these other things that will make my business more stable and more, I mean, things I can depend on, such as when I'm developing a flipping business, I'm also working on buying materials in bulk. And I mean, it's not going to pay off today, but whenever time comes and whenever market, like whenever I make a mistake or don't buy it right or don't do certain things right, all these other efforts that are experimentative today will help down the road. So, and that's exactly what, I mean, I got out of what you just said. Basically, your other flips or other efforts are helping this effort like come out of the hole, basically. Am I right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I don't remember what the question was, honestly, but whatever it was, this is
Like how
this
do
is
you adjust for basically
yeah, no,
messing
going
up
over budget.
your flip? And the real answer is that can't be your one and only deal.
Correct.
And for someone like me who has active income through flips, I'm using that to offset what is
Yeah.
going to be ultimately a loss.
Yeah, and I
mean,
like how you also included earlier on in the Zoom when you were saying your flipping business is also to repay a lot of your PMLs for your buy and holds. So I feel like a lot of people will go into, okay, I'm going to buy and hold. That's going to be my active income somehow. The passive is going to be active. Or, hey, I'm just going to go to flips and I'm just going to live off of this. And I like how, or sometimes it'll be, hey, I'm going to do flips so that I can buy houses. But a lot of times they're buying with their own money. So I like how you're giving your also strategy to, hey, I'm still using other people's money for here, but now the active is paying those others to pay for this. So it's like a whole chain. And so more people can just see essentially more strategies. So thanks for also bringing that up.
Yeah. And then somebody just asked do I price adjust for historical stats like list versus sold price for your flips? The answer is yes. And then 2, if you're going into a buyer's market, which is what we have in a lot of areas here in Arizona, your active days on market also matter. So active days on market have increased to like 45 days or something like that. Now, for those of you who haven't been in real estate long enough, that's actually normal.
Yeah.
People we're so used to 2 days on market, 5 days
Yeah.
on market, and then your things are being sold. But that just means that when you're buying, you're no longer using 3 to 4 months as your underwriting. You're using 6 to 8 months as your underwriting hold time. Okay.
Yes.
And then that has to incorporate your timeline for what it takes to flip. So if you're like, I have a very intense flip in Phoenix, Morton Avenue. That property is $150,000 budget, but it's a potential triple digit flip. And we had to underwrite to hold it 8 to 10 months. Why? Because a very intense flip that could take about 3, 4, maybe even longer months before we're ready to go on market. It actually, the things that we underwrote for didn't happen. We thought it was going to take months, maybe 2 to 3 months to get all our permits and everything processed through Phoenix. It took us a week. So that was all of a sudden something that happened way faster than we expected. So we expect that there is a positive outcome from that. That means that we're also going to go on market when the curve is going up, right? April, May, know your market. And it's meant for a family. It has a pool, big backyard. We converted it from being a 3-2 unpermitted 4th bedroom to a permitted 4-3. So it's going to be for a family or a high family count property, right? Or it could even be a live-in hack for somebody who wants to rent rooms because now you have enough bathrooms to support that kind of living. So knowing that, we now know that what our budget is, how we're going to get on market, and like what we're going to do. But we had to be conservative about what we bought, how we bought. I actually negotiated with this wholesaler who brought it to me, and I made him bring it down another $20,000 or $25,000. So that was very helpful for us as well, as a part of that underwriting. So how you buy is so important, on when you're doing flips.
Yeah, I love it. You're already pivoting before you even start the project. Or not pivoting, but you're already thinking of pivoting. Because you're like, well, just in case, wholesaler, lower the value and you're already, or lower the price and all these different things. So I like how you're not just, oh my gosh, we're already at the end of this and waiting and now, okay, what can we do? It's like, no, we got the exit strategies. We have the other things in place that we have to think of, and even other demographics of people who are going to possibly buy this. So it's not just for families. Also, backup strategies is co-living it, or
Well, that's something that, and back to Chai's point, you guys have to think about when you're doing social media. So for that house, because it's so intense, we're doing more social media on it. We have some reels and stuff. And when you're on social media, you should be telling this to the audience. Oh, if this would be a great house hack, you could live in one and rent the rest. Or, hey, if you have a family of 3, this would be perfect because blah, blah, blah. You're already like planting the seeds of what you want the outcome to look like. And if you're not leveraging social media to show people the journey of flipping, you're going to lose out. I've actually sold several properties of ours without having to go on MLS because people saw it on social media. And so if you're not doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice.
No,
Yeah.
so this was, I mean, amazing. I mean, a
Amazing.
lot of cool stuff. You got me thinking on so many new things. So one of the things that I'm committing to myself about doing is social media this year. And what Ingrid just said is basically, if you put things in people's mind, maybe there is a buyer out there who's looking for a house hack or looking for a group home. And I mean, a lot of our houses get sold before they even go on the market because of that very reason. So you're planting that seed in their mind of what you want them to do, and literally it happens for you. So thank you so much, Ingrid. Again, I mean, I can't thank you enough for giving us your time and being our first guest on this Power Hour. Again, one thing I want to announce today, and Ingrid knows about this, is we are doing a sub-2 ski trip. I mean, I'm here on the slopes. I'm on the slopes in during the season all the time, even though I live in Texas. This is one of my new hobbies as a 40-year-old. But
This is your midlife crisis.
midlife crisis. Yeah, this is my way to mitigate my midlife crisis. So if you guys are into skiing or snowboarding, please connect with Rachel Schwartz. I have dropped her number, and just click. I mean, before you say yes or no, click on that link I shared for the home that one of the sub-2 members has offered for this ski trip. That, I mean, I can't talk more about that house. It's a 13,000, not 1,300, 13,000 square feet house with a pickleball court indoors, pool indoors, and I mean, all kinds of cool things. This sub-2 member who bought this for 7.2 million last month. And before it goes on Airbnb for $10,000 a night, she's going to give us a $3,000 a night reduced rate for this mastermind and ski trip. With a lot of people that have subscribed already. And so she has limited to a 30 people, even though house only accommodates 20. A lot of people are bringing their own like air mattress or whatever and sleeping on the pickleball court and whatnot and hang out and mastermind together. So if you guys are into something like this, please give it a serious thought. It's going to be awesome. We did this last year. I think we had 20 people show up last year. We are hoping to take that count up to 30. And I really hope my good friend Ingryd shows up. I know she has other plans during that time, but anyways, I'm just publicly
Pressuring me.
manifesting the idea.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. I haven't snowboarded in years, but I do have a snowboard, and my
Okay,
boot
there you
fell
go.
apart. So I need new boots, but yeah, okay.
So anyways, going back to our topic about flipping, I mean, Ingrid has given us so many cool things to think about for today. If you guys are one of those people who are looking at flipping as your next strategy, or even as a like a secondary active income strategy while you're building rentals or wholesaling business or whatever it is, please reach out to Ingrid for anything. I mean, Ingrid, I think you shared already your Instagram and other things in the chat. So please go ahead and connect her on it, connect with Ingrid on Instagram. I'm sorry, there is so much noise. I'm not able to focus myself. Yeah. But thank you guys for attending today's call. We will probably not be continuing the underwriting session after this, since we already went over 1.5 hours.
Oh,
But,
sorry.
no, it's not. So we are eventually probably pivoting to a 2 different session power hour, where one session is dedicated to a guest and another one will be focused on underwriting. So to make up for today's underwriting hours, I'm happy to do another session midweek next week. Do you want to do something like that, Jada?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I have to go back to my family as well, and I think we are already closer to 2 hours, 2 hour mark. People get tired of doing
Yeah.
real estate on Saturdays.
Reach out to me if you had a deal that you wanted to look at. I know Juan, you did. So my number's been here. I put on my Instagram. So reach out to me if you have a deal that you really want to go over, and I'll make sure that we can get to it this week.
And maybe if you come on this call next time, Ingrid, I would love to take a deep dive into one of your flip numbers and use it as an underwriting example for one of for our attendees. So next time you have a flip or you're looking at one, we'd love to chat about it live on the call. And I know I can reach out to you anytime.
Yeah.
Whenever.
Sure thing. Woo.
That'll be awesome. But thank you again. This was amazing. We are again, we are trying to put more structure to these calls and these interviews with people. So thank you for working with us on our first time doing this.
Super.
Anything else, Jada, we are missing?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, everybody.
guys.
Thanks,
And
guys.
don't forget to make that post. We'll see you guys next week or midweek next week.
Thank Ingrid. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, everybody.